Hi, Kamustika. Welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Okay, it must be time to get this live stream started. It's about 6 p.m., and I'm going to try to make this as short as I can because I am definitely not feeling well. Um, I'm tired, as you can tell, my hair is tired. Everything feels tired, but I didn't want to call in sick with this live stream tonight because I did do a promo on it. Well, I need the rooster, Jay Bud, to remind myself, especially if I'm not feeling real well, to not fall asleep, so I can be here for this live stream. And Jay Bud, you were here last Monday night, where a young Filipina who's if you shorten her name, I think it would come out like MMK. She was here, and I hope that she will be here tonight because I thought about her concern over the week, and I thought, well, you know, I did want to talk to address it more in depth. Hopefully, she'll be here tonight to absorb some of that. If not, hopefully she'll listen to this and be able to learn from it. So essentially, then what I'm going to talk about tonight will be advice for the Filipina unsure of her boyfriend in America. Now, this would apply to other Filipinas too, potentially, and ended up thinking of 8 particular things I would want to talk to her about. So let me wake up here with a little bit of coffee. Rooster did his job. Just real briefly to address a comment that I deleted someone's comment this week, or was it last week? And I only intended to delete one comment. In fact, I had approved one comment, so everybody can see it, and then I deleted one in particular, and it ended up deleting all of their comments. So I don't know. I thought I was just deleting one commented there. So I did want to talk about it real quick to especially buy some time for this young Filipina to join in if she does. And that was they had mentioned it's hard to tell if they were sarcastic or not about my when I was sick earlier late last year and early this year, and I missed 3 months of work. And they were saying, well, you must have stayed home and we're spying on your wife or something like that. Well, just think about it. To miss 3 weeks or 3 months of work is unusual. And you can't just say, hey, folks, I'm not feeling well. I think I'll see you in 3 months. There is a ton of paperwork to fill out. In fact, the paperwork itself, if you've ever been on short-term disability or long-term disability, is enough to make you sick and completely wear you down. There's lots of paperwork. You got to go to the doctor. You have to get tests, regular tests, everything you talk to your doctor about, the insurance company wants to know, or they can threaten you with not covering it. So I had to go through that for 3 months, and it did get approved. My doctor wanted another 3 months, as did I, because I have not improved since I came back to work in February. And I'm just gonna try to gut it out because I don't have any confidence they're gonna approve me if we still go back and say I just need some time off. So I'm just too tired. So we're not even going to try that. So anyway, the 3 months, you don't just decide if you've got a full-time job at a big company to take 3 months off. I mean, unless you don't want to ever go back. So that was just not the case. Now, they did make a comment that no one watches this channel, and it's not to that point. We're not at any threat of going out of business here at Love Beyond the Sea and closing the doors, but we've kind of had a recession. We haven't had to lay anybody off, but we have had to not run the air conditioner as high. We try not to burn the lights as as often, or we keep them dimmer. We don't want to let anybody go. We want to keep the channel going. So all I can do is promise that, I've got lots of ideas and topics for videos about the relationship aspect with a Filipina, which for the time being, while we're here in America, is what my channel wants to focus on. And it's about the people out there, the men out there who increasingly seem to be interested in Filipinas. I mean, there's more Filipina or Philippines, if you will, channels popping up on YouTube all the time. I'll come across some, and I wonder how I missed that one. Well, there's a lot of them out there, so we're going to try to do the best we can. It's been definitely a tough couple of several months. However, the last 5 or 8 or 10 days, there has been an increase in the subscribers, so that's good. But yeah, it's not true that no one watches. And I think about buying views. Some people have a lot of heartburn about buying subscribers, buying views. I've never felt that that's a bad idea necessarily. I've never felt it's immoral for some reason to do that. And I understand, why that is. It's, you drive by a store and the parking lot's usually relatively empty. You're less likely to want to go over there and see what's inside. If the parking lot's usually pretty full, then you're more likely to have your interest piqued, and that's kind of the idea behind people that buy subs. The thought is you got to get to 1,000 before the algorithm is really helpful to you. Otherwise, it seems like it's kind of stiff arming you, working against you. And if it takes 1,000 videos to get 1,000 subscribers, then that's what we'll keep on doing. But just for information, I'm not against somebody buying views. I probably won't, but if they do and they're doing it for the right reasons, that's fine. You still have to come up with the videos and the comments from real people, and that's just has to be done. But I don't think badly if people do that, because I understand they're trying to get notice to their channel. It's very, very competitive, and the algorithm is tough until you get to 1,000, where it is more, pushes your stuff out there more. So that's something I don't plan on doing. But for the record, I don't I don't criticize people to do that, because I think I understand the rationale for that. And they also, one thing they opposed of was my comment about spontaneous sex in a marriage, since this is about marriage primarily, being unachievable or unrealistic, or it doesn't work. And I think most marriage counselors would tell you, if you've got a job, you've got responsibilities outside of your work, if you're both working, you're not going to really have much spontaneous sex. In fact, you're not going to have as much as you want anyway. So that most of them would tell you, as I would, you need to put some planning into it, because it just doesn't work that way. Now, if you're both fortunate enough to not have a whole lot of responsibility and you have time, well, that's different, but that is, I think, the exception rather than the norm. So I want to get into the topic from last week. If you remember, in fact, you could always go back to last live stream and click on the live chat, I think it is, and then just kind of run through there and you can see the comments. She was married. She's 26, she said last week. And she said she had a boyfriend here in America who was 55, and they had about known each other for a couple of years, and he had not met her in person yet. And I believe he told her he was divorced, but also seemed to be hanging around his ex-wife. And so she was concerned, if you're divorced, can you get remarried in America? And I believe the answer to that is yes, you can. um, for what it's worth. I also told her I thought it's quite possible that this man was using her as a placeholder in case something didn't work out, maybe a reconciliation with his former wife. And also, I thought, he could be using her for leverage that, hey, I've got this young, beautiful Filipina that would take me anytime, says she loves me. So what are you going to do about that? Regardless, I think the situation for her did not look good. And I advised her to talk to some friends that had some common sense, some wisdom, people at church, maybe people that would be her sponsors, that she respects. And if she starts getting the same um, advice from them, that's probably telling her what she needs to do. And but I did think of some things just a little bit more particular during the week. So one of them would be, does he talk about, does he talk about does he talk about his past? Um, it's been 2 years now. How well does this woman know him? Does he talk about his past? Because if he doesn't talk about his past, then that would be a red flag on her part. Because if if they did have potential, if they did have something going, I think he would be long before 2 years, revealing some things about himself, because he would want her to know, and because he would think that the relationship was at a stage where she should know, and he also wants her to know. So if this woman, can think about the type of things that they talk about, is he talking about his past, would be something to help her answer the question: should she cut him loose? Should she give him a chance? But she does need to find out if he is serious about her, because she said she was in love with him, had strong feelings for him, and well, that's good or bad depending on how he feels about her. Another point here would be, does he talk about his feelings with this Filipina? Does he talk about his feelings? Because at some point you would think that would come out, where once they get past the stage of a lot of small talk, get to know you talk, icebreakers, and then if there's potential there, he should be talking more about his feelings, I guess, about anything, just opening up, revealing himself more to this Filipina. That's something that she would want to look for. Another thing, this is important. I mean, it's been 2 years. Does he talk about the future, his future with you in it? If I'm talking to the Filipina, if she's listening to this, does he talk about the future and the future with this Filipina? That could include going to visit her, which he has not done yet. Um, she's not going to be able to visit him, and anyway, because that's usually very difficult for a Filipino to get a tourist or visitor's visa. So that's basically not even worth pursuing. From what I have been told, I was told I couldn't even get my own wife up here to America before the visa interview process went through, because they're just not going to allow it. So, we didn't, and that took about 8 months. But, I went to see her right away. And so we kind of had to start talking about that aspect of our future, because, we got married in only 54 days. And that works for us because we both, I didn't kidnap her. I didn't coerce her or threaten her. We both made that decision with our own free will. And so we're both kind of responsible to make sure that it works out. Um, Well, hi, Maureen, Michelle, and Ken. Um, Thank you for being here. I was hoping you would catch wind of this. And you say he does tell you about his past, and you accept him so much. Well, that's a good sign. I mean, I don't know if you caught all of this. I guess I'll call you MMK just for short. But you said yes. That was the first thing I talked about. Does he talk about his past? Has he opened up to you about his feelings yet? Um, does he talk about a future with you? Just something to think about. When you ask him, you know, look, here's the circumstances. I know about you, and I'm uncomfortable with some things that I know that are apparently going on right now. So if you don't have any clarification, ask questions, so you know where things stand, especially is he serious about you? And if he says, well, yes, of course I'm serious about you, well, then you say, well, what I mean is, I want to get married. I am assuming you want to get married. That's just an assumption that I am making. You're 26 years old, you're a good looking Filipina, you're with a foreigner, been 2 years. It must feel like 5 years, to be honest with you. That's a long time. But does he talk about a future with you? And in fact, my wife and I have been married for a little over 4 years, and I think it's imperative that we talk about our future together and then work towards making those future plans a reality. And even for us at this point in time. So, another thing, then, of course, is visitation. He should, in my opinion, for what it's worth. And you did ask for some advice last week, so um, I do want to try to be as helpful as I can. And I think it's very important that he visit you as soon as possible. I mean, you say he hasn't visited you in 2 years, if I understand that correctly. Well, I would ask him why. Well, if you don't know, I mean, ask him why you haven't visited. If you want him to visit, tell him it's important to you that he visit you, and that you want him to see what it's like where you live. And by the way, do you mind telling me what city that you live in the Philippines, just so I kind of have some general idea? The biggies: Manila, Davao, Cebu, somewhere else. Um, I mean, maybe he is reluctant or afraid of flying out there or something. Maybe he can't afford it. Maybe he's really not cut himself loose from his ex-wife at this time. But I think it's important that he see you as soon as possible. One of the guys last week felt that, in their opinion, a year was enough time for that. And you know, a lot of these things cannot be, black and white, cut and dried. But that would make sense to me if you're the only Filipina that he's involved with. That by a year for sure he would be up there. 2 years, absolutely for sure. But to me, that just seems like a long time. And I'm sure, the way my wife and I were talking, and that's another point I'll mention later, by our conversation, she could probably see it coming, that before long I was going to ask her to marry me. And, I wish I could remember everything we talked about in those early days, but I'm sure there was some natural progression to it in the middle of, like, talking 2 hours before work and 2 hours after work, so that when it came to me asking her to marry me on day 18, she wasn't shocked, she wasn't disappointed, she wasn't surprised or anything like that. She probably expected it, and so did I. I just felt like we had nothing else to prove, and for us, we just needed to move it to the next stage at that time for us. I'm not saying anybody else should necessarily do that, because everybody's unique. Their past is unique. Their situation is unique. Their ability to take risk, I guess, or trust is going to be, different for each person. Um, but I guess what I'd like to see from this man in America is he tells you he's going to book a flight for you, and then he's going to get the flights. He's going to show you the itinerary. He's going to make sure that I don't know what you do for a living, but he'd make sure that it's all worked out before he does. That you're going to be there, and you can have plenty of time to spend together. Um, the money issue, MMK. Um, I guess I'll probably step on some toes here, but I just think it's practical that when when a guy from another country gets involved with a woman from the Philippines, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. So, you know, you really, it helps to be able to somehow come up with that money because it's not cheap to fly there. I know from here it's 1,500 just for one of us to get to the Philippines. So 3,000 for both of us. So you know, I hope if he's been saving for 2 years and he doesn't have enough by now, I don't know. But I guess I guess to me, I tend to like to want to get things done sooner than later. I'd want to know how much money he thinks he's going to need to go over there. His plane ticket could be $1,000, 1,200, 1,300. There's going to have to be a place to stay. At 55, he's probably still employed unless he's disabled. And then it's, you're going to have to spend at least 2 or 3 weeks there, I would think. And Jay Budd right now, MMK is listing some things in addition to what I'm going to say for you to think about. So in Mindanao, that's where my wife is from. That's where we're going to make a home in hopefully 4 or 5 years. If I can retire then. So he's saying that when this boyfriend or any Filipino's foreign boyfriend is serious, when you are a priority to him. And one of the things we're going to talk about later will help reveal if he is a priority to you. Is he curious about you? I like that one, Jay Budd, because it just has a good ring to it. Curious could mean her personality. It could mean where she grew up, how she grew up, what her beliefs are. How she lives, where she went to school, what she thinks about certain things. If he has this natural, healthy curiosity about you and finds you interesting, then he's going to ask you questions about yourself. Listening to your opinion, Jay Budd just listed a real good one there, a real good one. And I'm going to mention why that's a good thing that Jay Budd just listed in a little bit here. He listens to your opinion. Okay, so do you get the idea? This man is making you a priority, that he's curious about you. He listens to your opinion, because if you're curious about him to want to marry him, then you're not going to have the same opinions on everything. That's just too much to ask. It's unrealistic. But he should value your opinion, or if he disagrees with it, he should at least want to know where you're coming from, so that he doesn't just say, oh, I don't know why she believes that. He should be able to say, yeah, I don't agree with her, but here's where she's coming here where she's coming from. Here's why she believes what she does. Does he share his passions with you? It's kind of akin to, does he share his feelings with you? In other words, over the time that you have known this man for 2 years online, does he share his passions with you? In other words, how well do you know this man? Not just, his occupation, his hobbies, his daily schedule, but what are his passions? And does he keep his promises? We'll kind of touch on that too. Jay Budd is making a real good list here, so it would not hurt you, MMK, to jot these down. I'll probably list them in the description when we're done. But these are excellent, and Jay Budd's got some really good things here. I think Jay Budd's a relatively deep thinker. He wants to know what he's doing. Probably wants to know if the other person knows what they're doing. So he's listing some good things. So he lives in Ohio, and we have mutual friend in Ohio. There's actually several YouTubers in Ohio, and hopefully he's not one of them. So, but no, I guess honestly, what I'm saying here is not intended to be critical of your boyfriend. What I'm saying here and what J Bud is trying to help you with is for you, MMK, to make the best decision you can. And what he said here is very good. Does he keep his promises? And so you live in Mindanao, he lives in Ohio. It's probably at least 3 plane trips to get to see you. So now there is, again, someone else involved, as you mentioned last time, former wife that he is not, he still has some emotional ties to, obviously, has some kind of tie to. Correct me if I'm wrong with that, but, it's not like you're just chatting with one foreigner. It's not like the foreigner is chatting with several Filipinas. I don't know. Is he chatting with any other Filipinas? Do you know that? I guess he wouldn't have to be because he's already got you, and he's got his former wife. That sounds like maybe he doesn't. They're not acting like they're formerly married people. So we'll talk about. Well, you said that MMK. You said you loved him last week. You had feelings for him. I just want to ask you a personal question. I don't expect you to answer it right here. It's more for yourself. But when you say you love someone, has he earned your love? Has he earned the patience that you're giving him to have a relationship with him for 2 years? You're saying you love him. That's pretty strong feelings. Has he earned it? What has this man done? Because you may be a loving person, a caring woman who could love and care for a lot of people. Filipinas, have a reputation for being, sweet, loving, caring, nurturing, tolerant, patient. I did a whole video. I think it was in 2 parts because there was like 55 qualities of Filipinas, and so there's some good qualities there in Filipinas. But has he earned your love? Has he earned your trust? Has he earned your respect? I guess I'm trying to play the devil's advocate a little bit here because if I had told my wife, if my wife had told me she loved me and I had not seen her in 2 years, I guess the first thought I have in my tired head right now that hurts would be, why is she saying she loved me? And does she expect me to say that I love her back? It's a private question. I don't even want you to answer it here, but are your feelings justified? Is there a reason that he's earned your love, or are you just looking to love him so badly because he's a foreigner, or because you've been alone, or you've had bad experiences? Be careful when you say you're in love with someone, because there has to be a good reason for that. that he has done something to earn that love, I guess, which usually takes some time and probably some time in person so you can see that this man is more than just words. So that's a question I would want you to think about. So if he says or you say if I ask him, he always answers my question. Okay. By the way, MMK, there's lots of questions that you can ask a man, and a man can ask a woman early on. And when you start to feel maybe a little bit of chemistry and you want to see if you're more compatible, and then before you get married, then you start really laying out some serious questions. And I have done three videos on that. They're live streams, so they're longer. You don't have to watch them. You can just go scroll through the description and see those questions. And you might want to, it doesn't hurt you any, ask him some of those questions now, in case that would help you to go further into the relationship or see if he wants to go further into that relationship. And it's nice that he's only chatting with you, MMK. The problem is if he's also seeing a woman here in the States that he used to be married to, and he hasn't, cut himself loose, then that could be worse than him talking casually to 4 or 5 Filipinas at once. And J Bud suggests ask him if he is genuine. Does he want to marry in the Philippines or bring you to his home on a K-1 fiance visa? So that's putting that question right out there about marriage. Because if you're like the Filipinas I've read about, you are a marriage-minded woman, especially at 26. Ask him, does he know the cost of bringing you back to the United States? See how practical J Bud is. I'm glad you're here tonight, J Bud. Anybody that watches this video until the end of time and clicks on the live chat can see the help that we're trying to give this lady in the Philippines. Yeah, if he can't afford to do that, I'm talking about bringing this woman to the United States to live here for a while, and you could ask him, again, we're talking future, but there's never anything wrong asking about the future with someone, because if he's interested in you, that should be okay. You could ask him, what are your thoughts about possibly living here in the Philippines someday? But again, being practical, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to cost him a certain amount of money to see you in the Philippines the first time. And if he goes back again and again, then that's going to double and triple that cost. Hi, Ruth and Tom, Philippine Adventures. Thank you for your comment this morning, Ruth. And good morning to you. Good evening to other people here in the United States. And Maureen is here. And Ruth, we're just, Jay Bud and I are just out of the goodness of our hearts trying to give her some food for thought. She asked a fair question, wanting some advice last Monday, and she seems willing to, hear these thoughts. The decision is hers. We just would like to see her make a good choice, not waste her time, and so yeah, if he would balk at the cost, well, it's going to cost, I don't know, $8,000 to $10,000, probably minimum, if to bring a Filipino over with, you go there once, that's one cost, and you got to bring her over. That's the second cost if you never go in between, all kinds of visa expenses, interviews, hotels, and so on and so forth, adjustment of status, if you do a fiance visa. It's a big commitment. So I'm glad he's chatting only with you, but we he's got to pick, between you and his former wife that apparently he's he's still involved with in some way. So yeah, those are really good questions, and they really are, and I appreciate that again, Jay Bud. How about this? And again, some of these are practical, some of them may seem a little picky, but I'm trying to gauge interest. So, for example, Maureen, is he on time for your webcams? Is he on time? We talk about keeping your promises. If he says to you, um, Han, I'd like to let's get together at, I don't know, whatever time usually works. Let's say 6 p.m. USA time, 7 a.m. in the Philippines, or something that works out for both of you. Is he is he there on time? Is he reliable? Do you have to sit there and wait 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes and then you don't hear from him because I just can't imagine wanting to make a good impression and somebody's important to you and not being on time, you know, for those for those webcams. My wife was 5 minutes early for the first webcam we ever did, and believe me, it made an impression on me. The other ones that I had done before her in only 4 days or so, uh, I don't think anybody was on time. It ranged from about 5 to 25 minutes later than the time I was supposed to contact them. I believe I was on time. So being on time, not making you wait, your time is valuable too. And it just shows that he cares. It's a little thing, but if he promises, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be here on this at this time, is he? Just something to think about. A lot of the foreigners cannot afford the immigration process. As Jay Bud points out, you got travel costs, on and on chatting you, and it's a thrill to be able to chat with you, I'm sure. But he isn't a suitable mate if he can just barely afford a plane ticket. Then James' suggestion would be um, cut bait, let him go. And I don't know. I mean, that sounds practical to me, Maureen. I mean, Ruth, you're welcome to chime in here too. I hesitate to tell a woman, what to do because I think, frankly, Ruth, someone like you, another woman, is the type of person that she would be more trusting of because you're another woman. And if you married Tom, you're probably a pretty sensible woman. So I think Ruth might be a good person to talk to or talk about some of the things we're putting out there tonight. But we're trying to help her decide uh, if this guy is worth holding on to. So yeah, it's expensive. I mean, if it's going to take 2 years to save up for the first visit, how long is it going to take for the second visit? And to start sending you some money here for the visa petition, some money there um, for the checkup, some money here for, I don't know, passport, money for the conference for Filipinos overseas, and things like that. Um, you're young, but you're, like I said last week, Maureen, time waits for no one. Time waits for no one. Not all foreigners are in a big hurry to get married, which is why I suggest you ask him, how serious are you about me? If you want to get married, just say, look, I'm looking for a husband. We've been talking 2 years now. Um, your relationships are serious business, and you got some serious questions you want to know. I think that's totally fair. Just be straightforward and say you'd like to know these things. And yeah, there's some complication here, Ruth, as she alluded to last week. And so, as much as we can, we'd like to help her by throwing out some ideas here. And yes, you're still young, but there are lots of guys out there um, that won't wait 2 years to go see you. You're a free agent. I mean, so is he. Um, I think that the Filipina needs to be, discerning with the type of guy she's with, only because, like it or not, a lot of foreigners will say things and they're not sincere. I'm not going to lump everybody in there because I know too many guys that aren't like that. I know one that just got his wife here. They went steady in a couple months, and then after several quick visits, they got married, and now she's already here, just like that. And he focused on her, and and I would like to see, for your sake, for any Filipina's sake, find, you can talk to multiple guys at once. You just want to find one that's really serious about you, and hopefully some of these questions will help you. Um, oh, hi, Tom. I got dyslexic there. I thought you were Ruth and Tom, Filipina Adventures. Well, you can ask your wife. Last week, Maureen asked for some advice on a situation with her boyfriend in America, and kind of gave her some generic advice. Asking how serious he is, um, about you. That you really need, you want to see him. It's been 2 years. Find out where he stands with his ex-wife. I didn't want her to be used as leverage. I didn't want her to be a pawn for this man. I want what's best for her. I have a Filipina friendly channel. After all, I married a Filipina. So, 2 years, he's still saving for a plane ticket. Yeah, most or all of the advice that we're politely trying to offer her has been, it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound good for her. Now, you're talking to men who have been in America, and so that's important because we're familiar with, the dating scene here in America with overseas, and Ruth is a Filipina. I'm sure she's has a lot of wisdom that she can share. And so the gist of this, Tom, is advice for the Filipina unsure of her boyfriend. I've got like 11 points to help Filipina decide if her boyfriend is serious. You know, and J-Bud has listed some really really cool things here. If you want to scroll up and down, anybody can see those things, and those are all good advice. That really helps the live stream when you get good comments like this. So one thing again, does he make time? We're talking about, is he on time when he chats with you? Webcam, I assume, plenty. But does he make enough time for you? Do you think that he's chatting enough? My wife and I were chatting 2 hours a day before work, 2 hours after work. Many people I've read say they did the same thing, 3-4 hours a day. I guess it depends on how much time you have too. But that just means they found somebody, and the sooner they learn about them, the sooner they learn whether they need to, they've got something going or they don't have something going. Oh man, that coffee tastes good. So does he make time? Hopefully you never don't hear from him someday. So just something to think about, you know. Yeah. Well, I think yeah, many times a day for a year, and it's fun. I mean, but if you do that, you reach a point where it's not just because it's fun, it's because, hey, we've got something going. I want to know more about her. I'm curious about her now. Now I can expand the range of my questions. And now I can expand my how much I give away of her emotionally, about my past. I feel comfortable asking about her past, her future. And then by that time, it's like, what do we got left to do except, you know, get married, hopefully. So we're just trying to help her with that. The decision is hers. I would not force her on anything to do. just get good sound advice, because then and only then will you be sure you did the right thing. 55 years old and broke, can't afford a plane ticket. You're 26, going Christian Filipina, chat some guys who are for real. And she had mentioned last week that she's a Christian Filipina, or a Christian and a Filipina, and that he was too. Um, I'd like to see a guy move more aggressively than he has. Um, so Christian Filipinas, where I met someone, I know other people have met their spouse on Christian Filipina too, and I think it's possible because, Marine, the guys that join Christian Filipina, it's not a free dating site. They have to pay, I think it's 3 months or 6 months or lifetime, which is like, well, you don't need a lifetime to see someone or a lifetime to get married. But they have to pay, and so they're a little bit more serious. They're already showing that they're willing to pay, I don't know, $300 or something, is it, for 3 months? And that's a lot if you compare it to the United States. But if you start looking at quality, well, yeah, you've got thousands and thousands and too many thousands of potential Filipinas to chat with. So it does cost something. So I think they're a little bit more, um, um, I guess, bought into the process of marrying the Filipino when they have to pay for their dating site. Well, this is the thing that I wanted her to be honest about. If her hopes are, she says she loves this man. Many Filipinas love the guy they're communicating with, but would like it to go um, to a more serious level, probably faster than a lot of foreigners would like it to be or are comfortable with. And but 2 years now, 2 years, if the conversation were consistent and talking about important things, I would think it would be common sense that he would be up there and see her by 2 years before that, even. So if there's some kind of difficulty getting in touch, that would be a problem. There's really no difficulty. You should know his schedule. He should know yours. There's Viber, there's Facebook, of course, that's big in the Philippines. We use Skype. There's other things now too. So that shouldn't be a problem, setting up a time to talk. I mean, why would it be a problem? It sounds to me like you're a lot more invested in this relationship, long distance online relationship, than he is. And are you really being fair to yourself, Maureen? We don't want to see you get used. We'd rather see you find somebody that cares about you, is curious about you, respectful of your opinions, somebody that's not controlling at all. And Ruth says 2 years is a long time to wait for a person. Waited 2 years for Tom, and it's worth waiting because then you have time, regular time for communication, and then whatever busy he is, he always tries his best to message. Well, yeah, I mean, you just have to work it out, even if you're in a different state or you're in the same city. You still have to work out a time if it's important to you to chat. And if there's going to be broken promises, if you don't trust that he's going to be communicating with you, that is just waving yet another red flag, in my opinion, about this prospect for you. Hi, Rodney. Glad you're here. You went to Christian Filipina as well. And thankfully, Maureen is here, and Ruth is here, Tom is here, JBud 5000 is here. I'm just trying to get back to, I'll call her MMK, from last week. Just maybe kind of push this along a little bit, give it the nudge it needs so she can, work up the courage to ask some questions to really figure out if she's, been wasting her time, so she doesn't have to waste any more time. Because you're the woman men pursue women, men pursue Filipinas. Who's to say there aren't others who will pursue you, that will have the means to pursue you, Maureen, and the interest to pursue you, and will talk about their future with you, and will be consistent and reliable with you. And that's what we would like to see. Now, along these lines, about missing, which scares me to death, missing chats. Uh, my wife, when I first contacted her, it wasn't at a very good time of day for her, and she was sick. And she said she would stay up, and if she could possibly stay up, she wasn't feeling well. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning over there, my lunchtime. And I said, no, don't worry about it. Just the fact that she offered that was another indication to me that I might have something special here, you know. And then she was 5 minutes early. Okay, so she's already going out of her way, do the little things to show that this is important to her. Even if we have not met yet and we just barely met online, she was smart enough and cared enough to make a good impression. So think about the impression this your boyfriend in America is making. Does he make time? Do the reasons he give, if he's not able to meet with you, do you feel good about them? Use your women's intuition. Do you think he's being honest with you about that? Um, Rodney, we waited 3 years. I finally made it in March to the Philippines. And I'm sure you had your reasons for that, Rodney, but I know you're from noting your comments. You're very conscientious about wanting to be a good man, good husband, and I appreciate that, because you're the type of man that is going to go into a relationship with a Filipina with his eyes wide open, and you're more likely to be successful. Not because you're just waiting, you're learning while you wait. There's a saying that says everything comes to him who hustles while he waits. So while you're waiting, you got to be doing something, learning, saving. But you're engaged now. Is that right, Rodney? And everybody's circumstances are different. I just have a little bit of a bad vibe, and I think most of us do, about her situation. Now, if we're wrong, we want her to know that we're wrong. So we're putting forth these questions for her to think about, so she can come closer to knowing what she needs to do. And that would be great to provide that kind of help for her here in these last couple of live streams. Her family tested you on her character. Um, you'll have to let me know how they did that, how they tested you on your character. Okay, so you're calling every night and morning. That's good. That's good, Maureen. Yeah, special. Filipinas are special indeed. I feel that way about my wife. Well, Jay Bud, Rodney, get there, Rodney, before another guy makes a trip and you spend 3 years for heartbreak. Another thing that's true in the sports world is the aggressor always wins. And in life, I think it's the same way. The aggressor always wins. He wins in business. He wins in sports. He wins in the financial world. He wins in the relationship world. He's aggressive. He's not impulsive. He doesn't act without a plan, but he has a plan. He has a purpose, and he just goes about his work, methodically and with a purpose to find a woman. And Maureen is available if she wants to. It's not wrong for you, Maureen, to open yourself up to others. You owe it to yourself. You're 26. You're not 22, and you don't want to be 32 and have invested a lot of time in guys that really weren't serious. Let's face it, we're all a free agent, until we sign on the dotted line, and that's this ring right here. That's the ring that signifies, they ask you to marry them. They give you a ring. You go through the ceremony, and you're serious. You do it publicly. Other people know you're serious. And then that's when life gets hard, when you've made that commitment to it. But Jay Budd speaks the truth there. Not that your fiance would, is not committed to you. It's just that general idea. Because I mentioned last week that I asked a woman out who was engaged to be married and married in like a few weeks, the ceremony. And I still asked her out. And I made him tell her, no way, because anybody's fair game, and it's up to the man to say, would you marry me? I'm that serious about you. I don't want anybody else to get you, because I want to be the one that loves you, the rest of your life. And he's talking to your family. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign, Maureen. I'm glad you said that. Rodney, you are engaged. Good for you. Remember, Maureen told me her boyfriend never answered her messages and calls. Well, maybe things have changed since that last conversation. I don't know. But this may be something, Maureen and Ruth, where I don't know if you have each other's Facebook information, but I just think women, good women that have the best in mind of somebody else can really offer. They can offer the same advice the man can, but I think the woman is more likely to listen to her. And you know what it's like to be a woman in the Philippines. We're giving a perspective that we see, from the United States, and you can give her, unique perspective of being a Filipina in the Philippines. There you go. Jay Bud, not messing around here. Tell your family to ask him what is his plan. If he's speaking to the family, then ask the family to ask him, what's your thoughts here with my daughter? Hopefully he's going to want their approval. They may decide beforehand they don't want him involved. I don't know, but let them. He should, by now, he should be able to be on, if their English is good, speaking terms with the family. That's an excellent idea. Excellent idea. Ask them to ask him what his plan is. Always a risk. Well, yeah, so worth everything. Well, and I'm not going to pry into your business, Rodney, about when you're going to get married, because everybody's situation is different. We don't know or need to know what person's personal life is like. Just some generalities here. The Filipina is a free agent, and if you're locking her down, and you've promised to her, hey, I want to marry you. I don't want you to go anywhere else. Here we're engaged. That an engagement is like a pledge. Engagement ring is a pledge for something else. A wedding ring. You don't have to be loyal to a time waster. That's true. The Filipina has options, and if Maureen, if you have any sense that something isn't right, you're not comfortable with it, that's your intuition. It's there for a reason. Don't fail to acknowledge it. Think it through. Write down your thoughts if it's important, and ask them, and ask your parents, your family, whoever he's talking to ask him about his plans. Yeah, we want this to work out for Ruth and Tom. Excuse me, Ruth and Tom. We want this to work out for Maureen. We're not there. We're just trying to help. Big Rob. Hey, hi, Big Rob. I see you're up to like 900 and some subscribers now. You're just blowing past the competition. Congratulations. I have to learn to talk, or to look in the microphone. I look in the screen because it's like I'm talking to myself here, but I have to look up in there to see the microphone. I'm glad you're here. We're just trying to continue from last time. um, trying to offer Maureen some advice that she had asked for. We don't offer any advice if it's not asked for, because then it won't get paid attention to. So we're just trying to help. We don't know Maureen. I don't. We just care about her. That's all. She asked for some help, so we want to help her. Married April 19th. Well, I hope that time goes by very, very fast, and I hope, Rodney, that you continue to learn to be prepared for that. Not prepared for the wedding day so much as prepared for every day after the wedding day, because that's what I'm really trying to teach. And I know it may sound boring and dry to a lot of people, but the people that are jumping in and they know the risks, and they're going to marry somebody from another country, far, far away, different culture, maybe age gap, and so on, then you want to learn as much as you can about marriage and people and men and women and differences and so on. There are plenty of channels to learn about the Philippines. And if you're planning on living there, those are great channels. I can't provide that. I'm not going to try to provide that. I only want to help people with the relationship part. I will mention when I do something wrong, um, because I'm sure other people make some of the same mistakes. And basically, I'm just trying to help. If it doesn't get anywhere, it doesn't get anywhere. But I'm just trying to help. And right now, it's a pleasure to try to help Maureen at least see things clearly, if possible. Yeah, it's a big. Wait a minute now. 1,000. Are you buying subs, Big Rob? I'm joking here. Maybe you are. I don't know. I mentioned earlier talking about buying subs, because I understand you person buys subs initially to try to attract attention to their business, their YouTube channel, and I understand that. I don't have a problem with it. Sometimes I think maybe I need to, but I think it's a little bit too late. I think that's probably something you want to do early on and then concentrate on making the best videos that you can. Yeah, 1,039. You just hit the magic 1,000 mark, Big Rob. And they say that your job gets a little bit easier as far as getting the uh, not publicity, but the exposure for your channel with the algorithm. It's a little bit more in your favor as you scratch, bite, and claw your way to 1,000, which you have already done. So congratulations. Um, Big Rob has a channel. You click on his little photo there. It's too small for me to see what it is, but I believe that we go to your website, or it's one of those three dots on the right side. One of them might say "Go to Channel." Yeah, it's a lifetime after the wedding that we must prepare for. I appreciate you like the channel and the content. I don't expect it to be for everybody, um, but I wouldn't talk dogmatically if I didn't feel like what I was saying was helpful. So no buying subs, and just understand, Big Rob, I wasn't trying to suggest that you were. I'm very happy. I've seen your rise. I learned about Social Blade a couple months ago, so once in a while I'll just go in there, put in some names of people, and or I'll see a video, get a notification for a video, and then go to the about part, and it'll tell you, how many subscribers they have and views, and then you kind of can remember, well, hey, they've been kind of flatlined or they've been going up, so that's good. You have a viral video, that doesn't hurt. I'm afraid though I'd have to take my clothes off and do a video to have something go viral, and I don't want to. I don't want that to happen. But yeah, and Ruth says after the wedding, lots of adjustments needed and more patience. Getting to know each other, yes, even more, Ruth. And make God the center of your marriage. And that's what my wife and I said early on was going to be the the basis or foundation of our marriage. Are we going to do that perfectly? Have we done that perfectly? No, but that's our desire. That's our intent. And when we slip up, then we get back on the horse and we keep going. It's a marathon, and I'm sure Rodney, you know this. It's a marathon. So much emphasis is placed on the wedding day. My wife and I are the same way. We don't understand. I mean, we understand the wedding day is a big day, the marriage, but the ceremony is the ceremony, and the ceremony can be quite stressful, actually. And the woman wants it to go perfectly, and if something naturally goes wrong, let me get rid of this, then it might ruin the whole experience for her. But that's just the ceremony. What's better is hopefully 20 or 30 or 40 years or whatever you can have after that. And it's a patient. I mean, it's a long thing. It's a marathon. I'm by nature impatient, and by nature emotional, and I get angry, and I'm intense, and actually I actually have grown better at not being that way with my wife, because when I'm that way, it hurts her. If it hurts her, then what? It hurts me, because you're so closely related in marriage that you hurt her, you just hurt yourself. So you might as well try to help her, because then that's going to be good for both of you. And that's just a wonderful thing. So, Ruth, you're right on. Yeah, you might have known each other 2 or 3 years before marriage, but I just think when you're married, that's when you really start to learn about that person, because there's nowhere to hide. And I think that's especially true with a very long distance relationship, because you probably have not spent a whole lot of time together. So yeah, you're just think how much I'm learning about my wife. We got married, less than 8 weeks after I winked at her, and now we're married. I mean, it's game on. It's the lights are on. It's for real, and we're keeping, the score is being kept, and we want to win. And we're going to fumble the ball. We're going to throw some interceptions, but we gotta maintain our poise and keep playing to win. One of the reasons why I thought she may be a good choice, because she was involved in her church, and not just a pew warmer, and that's good. That's excellent. Involved in the church. That's what I wanted. One of my must-haves was that she be a Christian, and I just generally think it's best. And it doesn't matter if you're dating the same city, the same you know state, country, out of the country, is to not have a long list of must-haves. Surely there's only a few things that are really, really necessary. And those other fringe areas can end up making you take a long time to decide. And, we only have so much time. I made a video, is time on my side or is time on your side? Just something to think about when it comes to time and making the most of it. And I won't pronounce this right. Pasong Pinoy, Dream Life. Welcome to Love Beyond the Sea tonight. You had a simple, elegant wedding. The waiting and the process of us being together is the hard part. Yeah, it is hard, because you feel like you're married when you know you're going to get married, but you're not married yet. And then when you're married, if you're married in the Philippines, then it may be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. Who knows? It may be getting longer with all the immigration stuff going on today in the United States. The waiting is hard, but because you got married, then there's a reality coming, and that's you're gonna be together. You've gotten the hard part out of the way, which is those hurdles, getting to know each other, pulling the trigger, getting married, and you got to wade through all the visa stuff. But eventually you'll be together. And one of the things, there's a couple of good things I can think of about getting older. One is time goes by so fast that a wait like this doesn't take as long as it would if you were younger. But also, hopefully, when you're older, you're able to make better decisions. You're just able to make better decisions than you were in your 20s. Thankfully, uh, thankfully, we can get wiser. Ruth, always God in the center of marriage, because marriage will work well if God is in the midst of the relationship. And yeah, don't let the sun go down angry. Somewhere in Ephesians it says, "Be angry." You're going to be angry. Okay, don't kid yourself. It's normal. Anger is a normal reaction, and it can be a healthy one. But it says, "Don't sin. Be ye angry, but sin not." It says, "Let not the sun go down upon your wrath." That's the rest of the verse, or the preceding part of the verse. Be ye angry and sin not, let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Which means, if at all possible, don't go to bed angry. Try not to go to bed angry. And if you can't resolve it in the evening, maybe you have a problem comes up before you go to bed. Um, it may simply not be practical to get it worked out before you both fall asleep. So what the next best thing is to try to come to some agreement that the next day you're going to take the time that you don't have now to sit down and work on that problem so that you don't go to bed angry the next day. But certainly, if it's during the day and you got some issue, your goal is to get that worked out before you go to sleep. Um, in fact, if that's all you think about or work on, if possible, stop what you're doing, make sure that anger issue gets worked out. A lot of times there's misunderstandings. Sometimes, there's just selfishness, and we gotta apologize, or we don't even know what's wrong, maybe. And so then you got to communicate about that. But you're going to get angry with each other. That's, Rodney, you'll find that out when you get married. You're going to lose your temper at something at some time, and so will she. So just knowing that's going to happen, hopefully, will help you relax. There's nothing unusual going on. It's how you handle that situation, being patient, realizing it's not the last time it's going to happen. Just stay calm. You have the rest of your life to work these things out and learn about each other. Thank you. Yeah, it was so important for me. Is it Pusong Pinoy Dream Life? Yes, that was so important for me. Number one is she was Christian. My wife's Tito was for 8 years the national president of the Philippines of the Foursquare Church in the Philippines. I used to know a pastor of Foursquare Church here in town. He was actually um, the first pastor I met, and he wasn't a pastor of my church that I was going to, but he was the first one that really encouraged me to be purposeful or diligent or aggressive in looking for a wife. Now, the pastor of my church that I'm going to now is the first one that I could see all the time, talk to him heart to heart, who encouraged me that way, and he didn't give up, and we got married. So, yeah, I mean, putting Christ at the center of the marriage is sensible because he's the one that invented marriage. He invented people, male and female. Marriage exists to be a picture of Christ in the church. That's that's the that's why we have marriage. There's many purposes in it, procreation, pleasure, companionship, so on, even sanctification, because you do grow that way. You do. It's hard to grow when you're alone. It hurts more when you have someone. You care about each other, but that's where you grow, because you're gonna get tested, and when you endure that, survive it, grow through it, then you'll be better off. Uh, you know, Christ is the head of the church, that's why he can command husbands to give up your life for your wives, because he is the head of the church, and he gave up his life for his. And the church is his helper. Therefore, the wife is the helper of the husband. Christ is the servant leader of the bride, the church. Husband is a servant leader of his wife, and the wife submits to her husband. And that's one thing I was going to say somewhere here in my notes for Maureen, was to think about, if she's thinking at all about marrying this man in America, is he the type of man that you would submit to, that you can see yourself submitting to? J. Bud mentioned about, I'd have to scroll back a mile here. I won't. But, is he someone that you can see yourself honoring and respecting as your husband? Because if he is a Christian, he sees himself as someone that has to respect your opinion. That's what J. Bud said, now I remember. And as someone that respects your opinion, he's going to want to know your opinion inside and out when he has to make big decisions. And there aren't always big decisions to make, but when there is, he's going to feel the responsibility to be the one that bears the brunt of it, makes the right decisions. He's going to want to know what you think about Maureen. Right now, does he look like someone that you would be able to submit to in everything? He's not perfect. We went through that when I was talking about submission on a live stream a month or so ago, what it is and what it isn't, and what leadership looks like and what it doesn't, what it can do and what it can't. So you might want to look at that too if you have the time. But is he someone that you think you can submit yourself to? That's very important. Yeah, Rodney, you can interview me anytime you want. I believe, and maybe you don't. Rod, I had your email address at one time, and I remember searching for it, and I can't find it. Anytime you want to email me, the email. It's in the description box. Love Beyond the Sea, the number 4 U at gmail.com. Love Beyond the Sea at gmail.com was taken, believe it or not. So I had to make it Love Beyond the Sea, the number 4 U at gmail.com. Any questions you ask or you want to ask, or just put something out there, let me know how you're feeling. You want to get something off your chest, you want to know something, please avail yourself of me for that. Again, falling behind. Yeah. That's very good for you, Pusong Pinoy. Absolutely. Marriage, no marriage is perfect. Yeah, that's true. You'll find out pretty quick. Still have ups and downs. Always talk to each other. Best key to is communication. Make your partner as your best friend. Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate that. I appreciate your help with for Maureen. I appreciate everybody's desire to help Maureen, and by extension, any other Filipina, make a good choice with the foreigner. I hope no one thinks marriage is perfect. Now, if you see things that are just intolerable, then you don't marry them. But there's always going to be times where you say, "Man, I didn't know it was going to be this hard," or I thought it might be hard, but not in this way. I thought it'd be hard in another way. You just don't get to pick that. You just have to go with what happens when it happens, and be patient. Pray for wisdom. Avail yourself of other people you trust that can see things you're not seeing, and they're not afraid to tell you in a loving way, what you need to hear, because they don't want to see you get in trouble. The past 2 weeks, I caused anger in my girl twice. Eating humble pie is so hard sometimes. Yeah, I'll learn so much at 43, and Rodney, full circle, I'm going to be learning too. You think of 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8, love suffers long. Very first and probably most key, because it's listed first, element of love is it suffers long, otherwise known as patience. It's patient and it suffers long. Why is that important? Because we're not always going to, have things happen the way we want. We're dealing, two unredeemed people at this point. I mean, unredeemed in the sense that there's still sin in their bodies, their human nature, until they die and get resurrected new ones. The only way to get a perfect sinless body is to die, which is, it's supposed to take the sting out of death. If you believe in eternal life and in a perfect place beyond the universe where heaven is, it's so extremely far out there, to make the point that no man can get there. I mean, there's only one way to get there, and God can get you there overnight, if they're a Christian. So it's way out there, but we're not going to stop sinning. I'm not going to stop sinning. Hopefully, I will sin less 5 years from now than I do today, and 5 years after that than 5 years before that. So just have to apologize, Yeah, us guys, men aren't known as being emotional, but we sure can be temperamental. I can be, Thankfully, I'm married, because it's going to come out and it's going to have to be dealt with now that I'm married. You can kind of hide some things about yourself when you're single, but there's nowhere to hide once you're married. So it's good of you, Rodney, to admit that, acknowledge that, and somebody still feel like a teen. Yeah, sometimes it's like, man, Bob, I thought you knew better than that. Well, I slipped somehow, lost my focus somehow. I don't know. So yeah, let me know anytime you wanna email me or something, or do a webcam, Rodney. I mean, Skype or whatever, Facebook, whatever, that sort of thing. We can do that. And Michael and Heidi is on here. Michael, I'm glad you're here. It's a little late for you, and I wasn't really planning on being on this long, because I felt terrible when we started, but I didn't want to call in sick. Yeah, it'll be after I get done with this, or it's in the other videos. Love Beyond the Sea, number 4, you at gmail.com. And I'll get that up there before I crash tonight, that's for sure. So thanks, Michael, for being here. Jay Budd and Ruth and I have been trying to help out Maureen with some, just get some clarification, some questions to ask on her relationship. Nobody's telling her, hey, absolutely, you must get a new boyfriend. Just trying to give her some things to think about. That's all. And ultimately, since we have free will, we have to make our decisions, but it helps to get some advice. And she did ask for some, and she is receiving it. Now it's up to her to do what she thinks is best. Need to accept also your faults, always willing to listen and learn more how to forgive. And yeah, we have to admit, we're just helps to admit that we're not perfect. We're sinners. We do things. What does the Bible say? What did Paul say? One of the most celebrated, interesting Christians of all time, the Apostle Paul. He says, I do what I don't want to do, and I don't do the things that I want to do. Oh, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death, his sinful humanity? Well, God will. He has to die, and then reborn. The seed goes in the ground to be die. The seed dies to be born again, and that's why we have to die, and then we get a resurrected body someday. So yeah, good advice, Ruth. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. Michael was trying to offer some help last week too. Yeah, I can't. You just have to scroll through this if you want to. Just trying to help Maureen, that's all. Yeah, excuse me, Jay Bud jumped in right away with about half a dozen really good things for her to think about. Does he listen to your opinion? Is he curious about you? Um, and that's good. Uh, I don't know, Pinoy Dream Life. I go to a. If you're asking me, I don't know if you are. I go to a non-denominational church. I grew up in the Lutheran church. Um, Disagreed with some things and left. Then I was part of a PCA, Presbyterian Church in America, Reformed Church. That was in the 90s. And I think ever since then, it's been non denominational church. One was even a new church plant. And I don't remember what denomination that was, but it was starting from scratch. And I believe it's still there. Oh, Wesley. Yeah, hi, Wesley. I assume you're in the Philippines. I'm not in the Philippines, by the way. Well, maybe Marine is from Mindanao. We actually just built a house in Mindanao. We're going to be living there. Well, we'll be living there when we retire, uh, hopefully 4 or 5 years. And we'll be staying there later in the year over the holidays. See what that's all about. I'll get my first taste of, I guess, expat life. I'm going to try to do as many videos as I can while there. Call it something like expat trial run, living in the Philippines, because yeah, we'll just talk about what I'm afraid of, what I'm experiencing. I'm sure I'll hate the heat. Food is another thing I get concerned about. I was listening to a video today about the food, and I like my 10 or 12 foods. And if I can't only have a couple of them, I may only eat a couple of them. I don't know. I'm going to have to get used to other foods. So thanks, Wesley, for joining us tonight. Mindanao, so many people. Well, Mindanao is a huge island, that's for sure. But a lot of people moving to Davao these days. They say it's got more people than Cebu, but it's more spread out, so it doesn't feel as crowded. Not yet as many, tourists. So that all kind of maybe gives it a little bit of a smaller feel, depending on where you are. And Davao is a safe part of Mindanao, to be sure. Food here is difficult for Tom. Yeah, man, we like our steak and potatoes. I don't know about Tom. I know there's places in Davao to get steak. I like my hamburgers. I like my hamburger helper. We'll see. I don't want to worry about that now. I really don't. I just hope I find something healthy that tastes really good, or drink a lot of water. And I know our house has a water cooler in it and a water heater. You just put the cup in there and you get hot water for your coffee or tea. You can get cold water all the time. It's got that built-in 5-gallon jug, and it's cold as soon as it comes out. That way it saves room in the refrigerator too. And well, Rod, if you're used to all kinds of different foods, don't like eggplant. Yeah, I don't know. My wife bought some eggplant, and I don't know. It's too different for me. But I only eat like 10 foods. I just have always been happy with the same old stuff. But we'll talk about that in more depth one of these days when we're actually in the Philippines. And just real quick to wrap it up here for Maureen, if she is still here. And I wrote down, does he ask about your parents? Does he ask about your siblings? And then she said that he did. He has talked to her family. And then Jay Bud suggested that the family ask him how serious he is about her. In other words, what are his plans for their future? Singular focus. Well, that's kind of hard when if he's still involved in some way with his ex-wife. Um, I don't know. Is it too brash for a Marine to say pick one or the other? Um, I don't know. You'll have to you have to tell me if you think that's uh, too harsh. But I know what my wife would say. And then conversation. Last thing here, Marine. Is he a good conversationalist? This is somebody you're going to be married um, to if you marry him. Uh, is he a good conversationalist? And this isn't really necessary to gauge his seriousness, but just what I'm trying to get at is, are you doing most of the initiating conversation? Is he hard to talk to? Is he a man of a few words, which would make it harder to get to know him? Just some, that was my last thought here. I had like 11 thoughts, and then thankfully Jay Bud added about 5 or 6 other ones. Really, really good thoughts. Just help for any Filipina to know if her foreign boyfriend is serious about her. Rodney says future mother-in-law cooks very well. Worked hard to leave my American taste buds behind. Well, I'm not there yet. That is for sure. Um, Most of the time in the Philippines, I just eat scrambled eggs and peanut butter sandwiches. If we don't go out and eat somewhere, at least that's what I remember. Rice. Um, but I like scrambled eggs. We can certainly have scrambled eggs. Pinoy Dream Life. We talked before about your intro. I forgot who made it for you. Oh, my intro was called Fiverr. Fiverr. Fiverr, I believe. You can Google them. They're a group of freelancers. And what was neat about it was you could actually see examples of people's, well, artwork if you were looking for that, um, video intros and video outros and stuff like that. You can see their examples. So if you see something and you say, I think that's kind of like what I'd like to do, or oh, that's interesting. They've got a talent for that, and I'd like to incorporate that in my intro. Then you can look through them and see what they charge. You can also see what they I think you can get some viewer reviews on their work, and it's all out there in the open, good or bad, ugly. And mine cost like, $15, and they had to pay another $5, I think, to redo it one more time. And so, $20 is a good investment for something I would never be able to do on my own. So, do you have a YouTube channel, Pinoy Pusong Pinoy Dream Life? Are you planning on getting one of these days? Um, Unless you're really good at that sort of thing, you can you can go to Fiverr and have them do that for you, and then they'll just get all your information, describe what you want me to do, this describe what you want to have in there. Like if you want some pictures, you send them files of the pictures, any animation ideas or anything, words, music, sounds, and then they can put it together, get back to you. They'll even tell you, how busy they are and when they can get back to you, and then and then and then they'll send you a link, and then you open it, and then if you say, I think you get to change it like once or something, and if you say, here's what we need to change, then that you can do that. So then you just decide on it, and then you pay them, and then that's that. Then they send you a link, and then you can use it. Um, yeah, the replay is getting long. You might need to scroll through the comments. I didn't want to go very long because I didn't feel very good, but I do tend to feel a little bit better once we get talking, and I really want to help Maureen. How do you spell Kuya Bob? I'm not sure what you mean. How do you spell Kuya Bob? Getting kind of brain dead, Rodney. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, you have a YouTube channel. No kidding. It's called your name, Pusong Pinoy Dream Life. Maybe I've seen it. I hope I subscribe to it. But tonight or tomorrow, I'll click on your channel, okay, and see what you've got going on. And maybe I already have. I just don't remember. And I'd be glad to support your channel. Oh, the website you're talking. Oh, it's pronounced. You talking? I was describing a. Well, on one hand, I was describing the Fiverr, which is where I made the intro, Fiverr. It's five with I think two R's on the end of it. I don't know why. Fiverr. I think it's Fiverr. They're freelance people that do that type of artwork. And if you talk about my Gmail, Rodney, it's just love beyond the sea, and then the number 4, and then you, YOU, at gmail.com. Love beyond the sea for you at gmail.com. And I'll have that in the description if that's what you're referring to. Yeah, the intro, I like the intro too. I'm not good with graphics or anything like that. I just wanted to have an intro that had no music and, well, that was different. Well, because at the time I was looking at intros, everyone was just loud noise, attention grabbing. And I thought, man, that's what everybody's doing. I want to be different. So I wanted the sound of water because that's a sound I really love from being in the Philippines. It's that water, beautiful sound of the water coming up on the shore. So I had them find me a water file, and then the plane, just because you got to fly there and back. You're making a big trip. You get on a plane to fly to the Philippines. So I had the plane and the sound of the water there, and our photos, and what else? The banner going across that said "Love Beyond the Sea." So if you can imagine it, they can put it on video for you. So yeah, thanks Wesley for joining us. I'll take a look at your site today or tomorrow. Hopefully I'll still be live tomorrow. Really tired. And thank you for being here tonight. Maureen, I have good luck with your boyfriend, and we're not trying to scare you off. We're just giving you our 2 cents from our vantage point here in the United States, most of us, where your boyfriend is. So check back anytime you want. Let us know how you're doing in your relationship. Take advantage of Ruth and any other wise women that you know, because they will be a godsend to you. So, my friends, I thank you for being here tonight. It's Monday. It feels like it's already been a long week. I appreciate the thumbs up, guys. I really do. It's a rare opportunity that I even attempt to talk to a woman, because, as I said, it's better off that they learn from women. And what I'll do, since not everybody watches a live stream, is next few days I'll do an upload, and it'll be the same thing, just minus all the conversation, and it'll be geared from the man's perspective, so it won't be anywhere near an hour 39. It might be hopefully 9 or 10 minutes long, and I'll do that too, because not everybody's gonna wade through a long live stream, but people do longer live streams than this, and that's just for the sake of engagement. I think there was a lot of engagement today, and Maureen, and again, good luck with your boyfriend. All we're trying to do is give you some things to think about. The decision is yours. We wish you well, and We want that to work out, your relationships to work out for you. And I care very much about Filipinas. They've always had a soft spot in my heart. And I'm very grateful to have married one. Has made my life so much better. Marriage is a big challenge. I feel like you win some days and lose some days. You just you gotta be there for the long run. It's the long run that matters. So thank you everybody for being here tonight. Thank you especially for Michelle for your additional information and being so willing to listen to our feedback tonight. And Michael, let's see, you should mention about foreigner chatting with no intent of having a relationship with a Filipina. Yeah, that's leasing them. Well, I'd like to think that, leading them on. Well, it's like leasing a car without owning it. It's not having the commitment part, but yeah, leading them on. The Filipina needs to know, and she can always ask an older Filipina. Here's this guy I just met. Here's his Facebook. Here's what he said to me. What do you think? And if you get serious with them, have an older woman be there with you. I don't know, and have a chat with him, or have her be there and spy on the chat. I don't know. Just do what you have to do to get her advice. Someone you trust, not everybody, not anybody, just a woman that you trust, and talk to her about that. But yeah, yeah, it's out there, man. Thanks, Michael, and that's a good point. I could do a video about that someday. In fact, I may already have an idea for that. I got one written down here on my notes. I've got like 214 video topics I haven't done yet. I've written most of them, but I haven't done all of them. One of these here is how to tell between superficial love and real love. Because if a person can tell that somebody's more superficial than real, then they're not going to be led on. And yeah, the Filipina needs to look for signals, red flags in foreigners as well. And it goes both ways. Both people have to be careful, and both people should be open to sharing their relationship, some of the details anyway, with other people as they get more serious, to make sure they don't make a mistake. Don't be afraid to let them in on it. And they're probably going to say things that are very, very helpful. But yeah, just a warning to the Filipinas. And this goes for anybody, anywhere. Make sure the guy is sincere. Make sure if you have some gnawing feeling in your gut that something isn't right, then talk about it to a friend of yours, and see what they happen to say about it. Because you want to make a good choice. So anyway, it's getting really late for me. It's been a pleasure to stay up. I hope this will be of help down the road to somebody. And hopefully I'll have that rooster back here next time to alert me when it's time to do the live stream. So thank you everybody for joining me tonight. Until next time. And by the way, have a good and godly week. This is Bob for Love Beyond the Sea.